you go, gang. Welcome to HTLA's Film 101 on HTLA Radio 1 New York. And speaking of HTLA Radio 1 New York, it is 33 degrees right now in Central Park, and it is snowing gently. Isn't that nice? It is New Year's Day. Happy New Year to all, and to all really freaking cold day. So there it is. HTLA, you can check us out, htla973.com. Hit our broadcast page up there and check out this show and all the other fine titles and content that streams from HTLA. It's just too much to list. It's just way too much. Yes. Well, anyway, there it is. There you have it, and there you go. I am the host of Film 101, yours truly, Christopher John Taylor. With my 17 years of masterful film and television experience, I am about to take you on a journey. Yes, a journey of sight and sound and mind. But more specifically this week, gear. Oh, yes, we got some big news to cover, actually, this week about things to do with gear. But the main focus of this show this week is, well, cinematography. That's right, gang. We're talking cinematography this week, and actually, it's quite a discussion. It's going on pretty much everywhere there is film happening or television happening, because more and more every day, those two formats and genres are combining into more and more of the same gear on sets all across North America and indeed the world. Now, if you're listening to me, you've probably got some clue about what I'm talking about, so I'm sure you're familiar with, terms like Steadicam and gimbals and motion control and all those good kind of things. And you're probably familiar with the cinematographer and just what that job entails. And essentially, long and the short of it is, the quick, speedy, dirty version, if you will, is the cinematographer is responsible for, of course, the overall sum and total look of your film. Or DP, Director of Photography. They're also referred to as that title as well. And it's essentially the same position in television as it is in film, although film, I would say, in my opinion, encompasses so much more. That's really where not all, but the majority of groundbreaking film camera work, digital this and digital that, takes place. It's really people pushing the envelope in the film industry that's really giving us the technological benefits for that industry, as well as television. And this show, as you fully know, I'm sure by now, if you're tuning in, of course, this show is all about exactly that. So if you're a filmmaker, welcome. It's good to have you on the show. And if you're just an interested party going, what is this Film 101 you speak of? Then also welcome to the show. And I'll try and keep things as straightforward and simple as I possibly can without a prescription. And, just basically get it all out there for you so you have a clue. One of the main reasons that we started this show, actually, was because we had a good number of people who don't have a clue. No, not a clue. No idea whatsoever. No. And, part of that is kind of thanks to, cinematography experts out there with their iPhones. Yes. Sort of as technology has advanced, it's given us, great cause to, be able to do more and more at a much lower price point. For example, I'm going to be talking about a couple of cameras tonight that are ridiculously cheap when you consider what they actually do. And we'll get to those a little bit later on in the program. But, we're talking about all you iPhoners out there and you guys out there with your little $300 DSLRs trying to be a filmmaker. You just may have skipped that $25,000 or $30,000 film school. Because you don't need that. No, who needs that? We'll just get the gear and show up on set and we'll just go, right? Should be easy. Well, it's not easy, gang, and I'm here to tell you that it's not easy, but with the right support and the right people, you can actually make your movie dreams come true. And if I can help push you into film school, if you don't already have it, then that's what I'm here for, gosh darn it. And I will be having, very excited about this, I'm going to be having actual guests to this show that are going to tear it all down for you because they actually do it every day. That's right. And not absolute unknowns who bought their credits from IMDb. Oh no, these are going to be the real deal. You're going to hear from directors and producers and, yes, cinematographers, and even if I can get some writers and actors in here, I'm going to be plowing them into Film 101 and getting them all out for your listening pleasure. So, yeah. Oh, yes, right, the show. Yeah, so today's show is on cinematography, and there's quite a bit of discussion as of late, pretty much across the entire filmmaking world, about cinematography and where it's come from, where it's going, and indeed the role that technology plays in that change. And truly, is there a change in the job description? There's quite a bit of argument about it. A lot say there isn't. A lot say there is. And yeah, so that's the bulk of the show today. Also going to be getting into a couple of cameras that, as I mentioned a little earlier in the show, are extremely reduced in price and cost, and put out some amazing results, and we're going to talk a little bit about those too. So, if you are just starting out and you need a clue, these cameras will pretty much get you on the right page in terms of compatibility and format and workflow and all those good things that you need to be concerned with in making a film. It's kind of important. Well, anyhow, let's get into the cinematography debate, shall we? In the past 4 years, the Academy Award for Best Achievement in Cinematography has gone to a film with heavy amounts of computer-generated imagery 3 times. In 2009, you might remember Avatar. That took the top prize in cinematography, followed by Hugo and Life of Pi in 2011. And 2012, respectively. These films, while visually stunning in every sense of the phrase, don't essentially conform to the traditional definition of cinematography, because much of the time lighting, composition, and camera movement are created digitally by a group of compositors. This, of course, begs the question, should there be a distinction between traditionally shot films and digitally crafted ones? Or has the definition of cinematography itself changed as digital technology has become more prevalent? So that's the crux of my show today. Now, there are certainly a couple of different sides to this question. On one hand, I'm reading that, it's an entirely technical matter. Films like Gravity, for example, that new one with, what's her name, Sandra Bullock and George Clooney. That film, as well as, I don't know, what's another good example? Ain't Them Body Saints. Those films were actually created in 2 vastly different ways. And this is where the argument is coming from, because, it would be kind of silly to judge their images by the same standards, I think. But, on the other hand, it can be argued that the method and technology don't particularly matter as long as the images have the same effect on the audience. Right? Are you with me? Well, let's take a little bit more in-depth look at these 2 sides of the yeah, you know what I mean, debate. Debate of the decade, let's say. The technical side. Okay. Now, in fodder and film making, yes, I can talk. going to teach you all how to be filmmakers. I can't even talk. Oh, wait, that was kind of like my teacher. Yeah. In modern filmmaking, there are two basic methodologies which pervade the the DP, damn it, that pervade the cinematographic, there we go, landscape. There you go. See? Yeah, you try saying it. Come on. The first and more common, especially in independent film, is one in which images are created in a physical environment, such as a set or a location. Okay, this method is one that we talk about frequently, and it's all about composition, physical camera movement, lighting, physical fixtures, all of those elements. Being able to competently create meaningful images in this way is not only the traditional definition of the method of cinematography, but it's a unique technical and, many would argue, artistic skill that requires of the DP an in-depth knowledge of many different technological facets and processes. Okay, and most of which you learn in film school. Just throw that out there, As an example of this first type of cinematography, if you haven't seen it, go get yourself onto YouTube and look for the trailer for Ain't Them Body Saints. This film was shot practically and quite beautifully, I might add, by Bradford Young on film. Yes, it was on actual celluloid. Yes. Take a look at that. And then you'll also want to pull up the Gravity trailer on YouTube if you haven't seen that yet, because that's the other film I'm using for comparison tonight. Now, the other methodology of modern cinematography is one in which the images are created digitally through compositing. Various elements and pieces of footage are composited together in order to create the final image. Now, this method often uses green and blue screen keying, or blue and green screen technologies, however you like to say that, which is a tremendous technical skill of its own, and it's really just evolving in the last, I'd say, 6 to 8 years to what it is today. And all of that culminates into the basis of the image. Now, while the characters are lit and framed by the cinematographer on the set, these decisions are often unrecognizable after the digital effects team has finished with the footage. In these cases, much of the lighting and composition actually happens in a computer. Yes. As a prime example of this type of filmmaking, I chose Gravity. And if you haven't seen the trailer for this, take a look, because it's absolutely stunning. Now, both Gravity and Ain't Them Body Saints are stunningly gorgeous films in their own right, let's be fair. But their respective methods of image capture and manipulation are so vastly different that it seems to borderline ludicrous to judge them by the same standards. In these cases, the vast differences in the cinematographic method absolutely demand that the Academy, as well as other motion picture institutions, create two separate distinctions in the craft. For the sake of this show and my conversation here with you, I would say that those distinctions should be traditional cinematography and virtual cinematography. Of course, in modern filmmaking, most cinematography exists somewhere in the middle of these two sides. Even films that are shot practically are rife with extremely subtle digital effects. Conversely, films that are heavily reliant on compositing often have scenes that are shot practically with a minimum of digital effects. In order for traditional and virtual cinematography to exist independently of each other, there needs to be a line drawn between the two, I think. Where that line exists, however, is a question for a whole other show with probably a panel of 6 different cinematographers, and we'll do that for sure. Now, the other question that might be coming to your mind is, does the method matter? Well, around the time that Gravity was released, There was a famed cinematographer, Emanuel Lubezki. He played in creating the stunning images in Gravity. Not surprisingly, he was present at every stage of the process and was largely responsible for all the digital lighting and composition of the film. Even though he had captured the characters and created stunning camera moves on the set, he remained present in the entirely effects compositing-driven post-production process in order to ensure that the images maintained his unique cinematic touch. Now, this to me begs another question. Does the method of cinematography actually matter if the end results are used to affect audiences in the same way that traditional cinematography would? You know, whether or not the image is created on location, on a set, or with a computer, cinematography is used for the same purpose, to drive the story and convey and strengthen the emotionality of the characters in the film. Even in a computer, the core concepts remain the same. You have camera and light, and it's the manipulation of these elements which creates the cinematography, not the method of manipulation. I would say Westerns would be an interesting discussion point with these different methodologies. The first, you look at something like the assassination of Jesse James. That was shot practically by none other than Roger Deakins. The second I would look at is The Lone Ranger, which was Bojan Bazeli. And both of those trailers, please feel free. You look those up on YouTube as well. Now, this is a bit like comparing some apples to French fries, as these two films couldn't possibly be more different. One is a subtle character drama, and the other is a big budget action flick. Sorry, I'm having troubles talking tonight. But in terms of the cinematography itself, it can be argued that the aesthetics of these films, though created in two vastly different ways, accomplish the explicit purpose of the craft in that they drive the story and tell us about the characters. And I think that's probably the number one key point, any way you look at it. I mean, that's what, ever since the invention of moving pictures, that's been, the driving force. That's what we do, Personally, I think method does matter and that we need to create a distinction between traditional and virtual cinematography. However, a strong case can be made that technology is simply changing the definition of cinematography and that the core principles remain intact. I would really like to know what you guys think, so feel free to fire me off an email at ctaylor@htla973.com and give me the skinny, What are you thinking on this subject? I pretty much got my own conclusions, but, let's see what you guys got to say. Anywho, we're coming up on our first break. We're going to be gone for, 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Go grab yourself a coffee or whatever beverage you enjoy, and I'll meet you back here in 2.
I hate flying. The lines, the crowds, the delays.
I always kind of liked it. 6 hours, one seat, nobody can get to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard our non-stop service from New York to London.
You fly much?
All the time, actually. Someone on this flight is threatening to kill someone every 20 minutes unless $150 million is transferred to this account number.
We're midway across the Atlantic. How do you kill someone in a crowded plane and get away with it?
Ladies and gentlemen, I need every passenger to raise their hands above their head.
This is a bad idea.
Marshal!
show. We have a right to know what the hell is going.
Agent Marks, the account number you gave us is in your name.
What? That doesn't make any sense. This is a setup. Something else is going on.
And Interpol are confirming reports that an international flight has been hijacked by an air marshal.
Agent Marks, our fighter escort has you in their sights. Do you hear me?
We're running out of time. Do you hear me? I'm not hijacking this plane. I'm trying to save it.
And we are back, gang. You are listening to HTLA's Film 101 with your host, Christopher John Taylor. And, yeah, we are having a nice little first segment there. In case you missed it, we talked all about traditional cinematography and virtual cinematography, how those two completely different and new ways of filmmaking are making filmmaking. Oh, sometimes I wonder what my name is. Anyhow, exactly. So now you're probably sitting there going, well, geez, I like to shoot all my films on my iPhone. Well, yeah, you probably do. And, for what they are, good on you. But there's certain things in the industry called broadcast quality, for one. 60i. Ooh, what the heck does that term mean? Ooh. I knew 24 FPS, but what the hell is 60i? Yeah, well, you kind of need to know that if you're going to make anything for TV. Now, don't get me wrong here. There's a lot of you out there that put together some pretty decent stuff and just stick it on YouTube, because that's what you do, and you don't know about how to go through proper distribution channels. You don't know what acquisition was if it hit you in the face, and You certainly don't know how to go about getting whatever it is you've made to the big screen, whether that's network television, cable television, or indeed the actual big screen in theaters. And over the course of these shows, don't you worry, we are going to cover things like, worldwide distribution of film and television. Don't you worry, we'll get there. But today we're taking it down. We're starting off with really Film 101. What's the first freaking thing we need? Oh, a camera. Yes, we do. Now my iPhone doesn't do 60i, whatever that is. And how am I supposed to get this, 4-inch by 2-inch screen up on that 80-foot screen up there and have it look good? Yes. Now we get into it, don't we? Yes, the real stuff, kids. That's right. Well, I got to be fair here. I got to be fair and completely honest. Up until, let's see, I'm going to say about a year ago. Yeah, about a year ago. I had to throw myself into studying and learning all of the new digital stuff, because while I have 17 years of experience on sets all over Vancouver, using everything from 16mm Bolex film cameras on up to the Arri and Panavisions, yeah, it's all changed now completely. Thank you. Most, I'm not going to say all, because there still are people shooting film. There are still big budget features being shot on film. But as time goes on, gang, we're going to have to learn the digital stuff, and that's where I was about this time last year. I was actually contracted to work on a television series, and, I got a crash course, so to speak. I had to learn about all these new cameras and the 2K and 4K and 8K and digital recorders and all this fancy schmancy stuff that I had never really had to deal with before. Oh, sure, there was the hot kid at the set with his Red 1 camera. Ooh, they shot Saving Private Ryan on that. Ooh, man, the images were so incredible and so huge. Well, yes, they were. They were shooting in 4 and 8K. Oh my God. Let's see. Well, I'm going to basically work with you through this segment on basically what I learned in my studying for, the new world of cameras and digital. Because it's quite a lot, actually. And of course, lighting has changed as a result of new digital formats, and the way light works has changed, and the types of light available, etc., etc. Now, I first looked into, I'm going to do a television series pilot. I need some cameras. And I need some, probably digital cameras. That seems to be what everybody's using these days. And broadcast quality. It would have to be for a television series pilot, now wouldn't it? Yes, of course it would. So, what did I do? Well, being the New Yorker I am now, I hopped online and went to where else but B&H Photo. That's right. It's the professional source for everything photo, video, and pro audio. And, so I started to look, I started to go through it all. I went through their camcorders section, and I'm like, well, these are camcorders. This isn't going to do me any good. And then I saw, professional camcorders. And I see the old Betacam looking things. Okay, well, I know the Betacam from way back in the day. Sure. And what do we got here? Well, for $2,000 I can get myself a Canon XA20. Oh, but wait a second, that looks like one of those little stupid things that you see tourists with. And then I noticed, there's 2 XLR ports on that. Kind of interesting. But then I started looking at the specs, and I went, native 1920 by 1080. Well, that's definitely HD. A 20 times HD zoom lens. Sweet. Digic DV4 image processor. What the heck is that? 3.5-inch OLED touch panel view screen. What's OLED? Ooh, OLED. And then I saw these funky little things called Blackmagic Cinema Cameras. Ooh, I said. And I looked, and it said with EF mount, and I'm like, hey, I used to shoot Canon stills back in the day. That's an EF Canon mount. Hey, I can use all my Canon 35mm lenses on this camera, and lo and behold, yes, you can. So I did some research into this camera, and I'm like, 2.5K image sensor. Well, Blackmagic and Sony were the guys that I went to get schooled on what 2K and 2.5K and 4K and 8K and 1080p and 1080i and all that good stuff was. And of course, their websites are rife with all the information you'd ever need. And the beauty about this is, this Blackmagic design cinema camera is only $2,000. Yes! Okay. But then what? Well, then I started to think, okay. I used to use primes back in the day and cinema lenses with all sorts of special coatings and rubbings and all these special little things we had to do. When we carried the boxes of lenses to and from the trucks, it was almost like we had, 20 slaves sacrificed and their blood adorned the cases just to, keep them safe from the evil gods, that kind of thing. Very expensive lenses. And of course, upon looking at some of the new updated stuff at B&H, found quickly that, Zeiss lenses were still $20,000 each. And more. Oh yes, much more. Some of the lenses I researched actually went up into the $295,000 range for a lens. Damn. Right. So, as you can imagine, I was like, what's my name? Where do I go from here? Somebody please help me. And it was a whole heck of a lot of studying, reading, hours and hours and hours a day, 18 hours a day on some days, I might add. And, yeah. What I basically learned, long and the short, is that companies like Blackmagic Design, Sony, Canon, they all put out various levels of quality pertaining to how much money you're going to spend on stuff that you could use for TV. and stuff that you could use for feature films. And I was like, yes! Okay, now where do I look? Well, JVC and Panasonic and Sony are all known for TV. You know, they're ingrained in that industry. Blackmagic Design, relatively new. I think the company's 8 years old. And, you know, they're doing some things. You know, they got a 4K camera out now, so okay, all right. And then there's, like, you know, GoPro, and I looked at that stuff, and I was like, no. But then I looked at Canon. I'm like, well, what has Canon got? Because last time I heard, they were just digital SLRs, and I know that there's been a heck of a lot of independent shot on the 5D Mark II. Yes, that's a legendary camera. And I remember back when they were, I think it was the second season of House, that television series. It was revealed that they were using Canon 5D Mark IIs to do the entire series that season. And, you know, they had some limitations. You know, you could only shoot for 10 minutes at a time because, you know, the maximum card for the thing, you know, you'd run out of space and you were constantly changing cards and all this other stuff. Well, the one thing I learned from Canon in my research with them is that very short order, they were actually listening to their clientele and they were actually changing their products accordingly. So, for example, now we have the 5D Mark III, which, of course, has dual CF cards and can run them in series. So, essentially, you can go from card 1 when it gets full, switch automatically over to card 2, pull out card 1, stick in your card 3, and just keep rolling. Now, the 10-minute thing to me wasn't really a big deal because I don't think I have ever shot a scene that lasted, 10 minutes in its entirety. I've never done that. The scenes are quick. So the 10-minute thing wasn't really a big deal, and I guess that's why the crew of, for House was able to continue and put together the whole thing with that camera. So, but that's really all I knew, so I thought, okay, well, what are these Canon cameras, what are they offering up here? Well, this is where I discovered that, they have a cinema line. Yes, they opened up their Cinema EOS line in 2011. And now they have these cameras that go from, down in the lower end of the spectrum, these cameras that are, quote-unquote professional camcorders, but look more like something, like I say, a tourist would carry than, say, an ENG guy from your local news. But upon checking out some of the specs of some of these cameras, starting with the Canon XF105 HD Professional, that's a $3,000 camera. And here's what it comes with. A 1/3 inch CMOS sensor, 50 megabit per second MPEG-2 recording, 422 color sampling, 60p and 60i, 30p and 24p frame rates, uses something called the MXF file format, and we'll get into that because that's pretty important. It has dual CF card slots, 10 times HD zoom lens, multiple bit rates and resolutions, dual XLR inputs for your audio, and it records HD standard definition. It has SDI, SMTP, timecode, and Genlock. Okay, these are pretty much all the elements I need to do an ENG news report. Have it together for the 5 o'clock broadcast. This is a pretty robust little camera, and it's only $3,000. The last time I saw features anywhere near this in a camera, the camera was $70,000, and the lens was another $50,000. So, as technology has progressed, what you can get packed into a camera for a very small price, comparatively, is incredible. So I started doing more research. I started checking into this, 422 color sampling and MXF file formats and all these good things. And I'm like, okay, so what is all this stuff? Well, as I researched that, I also researched the other cameras that Canon was offering up into what they call their EOS Cinema line. Now, these cameras are really weird looking. Yes, they are. They look like something an alien dropped. Starting with the Canon C100. Okay, this is a Cinema EOS camera. This is their entry level into the cinema camera line. Now, keep in mind, this camera does not come with any lenses, but we'll cover that in a minute too, because they've got some pretty cool solutions for that. For $4,999, you get a super 35 millimeter 8.3 megapixel CMOS sensor, which is absolutely kickin' smokin'. Woohoo! You get EF lens mount with EF contacts. Ooh, which means I could use those new STI lenses they're talking about. Yee. They have HDMI outputs, a non-compression signal, dual SDHC, SDXC memory card slots, ISO of 320 and up to 20,000. Yeah, you want a low-light performer? Yeah, look no further. Wide DR and Canon log gamma, which is very cool. Any of these terms you're not understanding, you can go on to YouTube. Again, I feel like I'm selling YouTube subscriptions or something tonight. But you can check out everything you'd ever want to see about the C100, the 300, the 500, and the 1DC, which is pretty smoking too. On YouTube, they have test footage, review footage. They have graded and non-graded. They have some tutorial videos on tests at different ISOs and with different media. They have editing explanations and workshops and workflows. There's really no limit to what you can get on YouTube, and I'll definitely put some of those on the Film 101 website for sure. And as I mentioned that, thefilm101.webs.com is where the website's sitting right now. We're still getting in the process of getting the domain and whatnot for that as the show becomes more and more popular. But in addition to all this, the C100 even has those professional XLR inputs that I was talking about, as well as peripheral illumination correction and a ton of other little goodies. Camera's very small, compact, very ergonomic, nice and easy to use, except there's a lot of complaints about the C100 with its little eyepiece. It's like you're sticking your eye up to a straw to kind of look through, and yeah, just use the screen. It's right there on the back. So, that's $5,000, and you can also get it in packages sometimes. Like right now, B&H has got it, the C100 Cinema EOS camera with a 24 to 105 millimeter f4 lens, which is an L lens, which is Canon's top of the line in terms of glass. You can get that package for $5,599. So, another $600 for that piece of glass on the front. But another camera in their lineup that actually really kind of excited me too was the Canon XF305. You can get it in its professional regular grade for NTSB, and you can also get a PAL camcorder as well. So all you folks over in the UK, you'll be happy to know that you can get all the same great Canon EOS cinema things in a PAL camcorder. I think Australia too, now that I think about it. I think they're PAL as well. And I was looking at these, and for $5,000, these things are quite big too. These aren't as small as the EOS cinema line. They're pretty big, but they're not as huge as the old Betacams and stuff, so it's not so bad. We're going to go for the break. When we come back, we'll go through the 305s and move up the EOS line.
Lifts to clear obstacles. Lowers to cut drag. Rises to every challenge. The class exclusive air suspension in the new 2013 Ram 1500. Engineered to move heaven and earth. Guts, glory, Ram.
What can I get you all today? Sea salt and vinegar, smart pot butter.
I'll take caramel with a side of white cheddar.
And for you, sweetie.
The special?
Lime and salt it is.
You guys ever get tired of just eating popcorn? Because I know I never would. Awkward.
Discover all 18 flavors of Orville Redenbacher's gourmet popcorn. Simply made, passionately created.
Have I got a treat for you? New clean whipped cream foundation from CoverGirl. A delicious new recipe whipped up by Clean Makeup. They took their clean, fresh foundation, added a dash of hydration, then whipped it to smooth, matte perfection. Finally, a non-drying whip that wears like a dream. What a treat from Clean. New clean whipped cream from easy, breezy, beautiful CoverGirl.
I live for the applause, applause, applause. I live for the applause, applause, live for the applause, applause, live for the way that you chill and sing for me. The applause, applause, applause. You make me feel it alone. Won't you feel it, make it turn, you make me feel it alone.
Just Dance 2014. Stay in, go all out.
HTLA Radio 1.
And we are back, and I was just enjoying some fine Orville Redenbacher popping corn. True. And now I'm enjoying a fine cigarette. Anyway, welcome back. You are listening to HTLA Radio 1 New York, Film 101. Yeah, it's the show that kind of just yells at you to go to film school and get $40,000 in debt, because I did, damn it. That's what it is. And today we've been discussing cinematography, how that profession has changed as a result of advances in digital technology. And then we discussed in our second segment about some of the cameras used in that technology, that new digital age that we're in. And I'd gone through some Sonys and various other things, and we were breaking down the Canon offering of professional cameras, just to look at what you can get for not much money. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not actually smoking a lot of weed here. I'm not stoned and I'm not drunk. I completely understand that, some of these cameras go up to $20,000. In fact, I've got some good news about that, but the C500, which is Canon's top-of-the-line model right now, it's a 4K cinema camera. You can get it in either an EF or a PL mount. And there's instant savings right now. Canon's offering a sweet little deal. Save you $3,000. They're offering the camera up at $16,999. And, you might be sitting here thinking, geez, Chris, yeah, I've just got $17,000 kicking around. I'll just go get that and buy that camera, you doofus, with no glass or lighting or anything. Yeah, I can just do that. Well, no, I understand. No, you can't. But, and, there are companies, too, like Sony, that offer some solutions, Ari, the Alexa, the Phantom 4K. There's a number of cameras out there that offer 4K, like Sony's little offerings here. But those cameras are $250,000. Okay? So, and maybe that kind of puts in a little bit better perspective for you. $17,000 is a heck of a lot if you have to pull the wad out of your pocket or save for the next 16 years. Absolutely. But in terms of relative cost to other things out there to get you where you need to be in terms of the quality and the kind of output that we're talking about, this is a giveaway. It's an absolute giveaway, and I'm sticking to it, even though I don't have $17,000. But anyway, I digress. So, I think before the break we were just getting into the Canon XF300 and 305. These cameras, broadcast quality, they do 50p, 50i, and 25p for their frame rates. Again, 422 color sampling. All of Canon's cameras have this. 50 megabits per second MPEG-2 recording. Native 1920 by 1080 HD. Okay, they got 3 sensors in those cameras. And dual CF cards, all the good stuff. The 18x HD L series zoom. So again, L glass, which is their luxury line of lenses. And each one of these 300s and 305s has got one of those popped on there for your giggling, shooting excitement. Dual XLR inputs on both. And, of course, the 305 has the HD, SD, SDI, SMTPE timecode and Genlock. The Genlock on these cameras is flawless, too. I actually used it in a 3-camera setup for a live television broadcast, and the They were just switching back and forth. All the cameras were locked together, same time code, just boom, boom, boom. It was just a dream, absolute dream to use the XF305. So I highly recommend it. Yeah. Well, then we get up into something where I'm like, oh, I recognize that. That's a digital SLR. Yes. And then I read the specs and I was like, OMG, are you kidding me? I'm talking, of course, about Canon's digital SLR flagship, the Canon EOS 1D-C. Yes, the 1D has been kicking around for a couple of years as their top-of-the-line best you can buy without a prescription digital SLR. And it's also sat there at $12,000 too. But the 1D-C... Actually, no, the camera without the C will cost you about $6,500. Yeah, give or take. And, that's an 18.1 megapixel CMOS sensor, 4K cinematic quality video. What? It's a 4K camera, you say? For just a mere $12,000? Yes, it is. 1920 by 1080 full HD video, dual Digic 5 Plus image processors. That's the brand new Digic 5 that Canon just came out with about 7 months ago. 3.2-inch LCD screen, eye-level pentaprism viewfinder, dual CF card recording media, as with all the new ones here. Canon EF lens mount, and magnesium alloy body. Yes, you can drop it from a helicopter and it'll still work. 61-point high-density autofocus on this sucker. Oh, yeah, and I've seen this thing in action, and it's super fast, and you stick STI lenses on it, and you're just in shooting heaven. You got 4K, it's small, it's essentially lightweight, a little heavier than a Blackmagic fully decked out with any kind of a studio rig on it, any kind of a framework for your follow focus and your matte boxes and all that other good accoutrement. But it's true 4K. Now, the C100 is not. And the C300 actually can upconvert to it if you use one of the right recorders. We'll get into some of the recording technology in other episodes coming up here, but I'm talking, of course, about the Ninja series of recorders, the Samurai, also talking about the sexy new Odyssey. Ooh, the Odyssey 7. Yeah, it's pretty smoking. Plus, some of the top pieces of kit there from AJA. They've got some good 4K recorders there that we'll get into. Don't worry, it's a coming, gang. But so yeah, you can upconvert on the C300, and let's talk about the C300 now. Again, yeah, you can get it in a PL mount, or you can get it in an EF mount. You're looking at right now to pay, you're looking at $13,999. For that money, you get super 35mm CMOS sensor, your PL or EF mount, the ability to accept, Carl Zeiss cinema lenses, for example, or ingenue or that kind of stuff. Or you can go with the Canon EF series of cinema lenses. Yes, you heard me right. They have a full line. And those aren't expensive either. Even when I tell you that, their main 3-lens pack is $15,000, you'll see why when I tell you. You will, trust me. The Canon XF codec, 422 color sampling, 50 megs per second, MPEG-2, yada yada yada, just like all the others. It's just a nice, happy family of workflow heaven. This stuff is, and again, differing from the C100, the 300 boasts some extra features and some more programmable buttons and a cool little clip-on top handle that actually houses its 4-inch screen. Yes, and that screen can swivel and tilt and pretty much go into any position around that camera. So, if you don't want to spend that extra $600 a day renting a 7-inch monitor, you've got a perfectly good 4-inch monitor built right onto this camera, which is super nice, I think. It's very ergonomic. You can switch the loadout around on these cameras like there's no tomorrow. It takes no time whatsoever. And they're just, my personal preference, I'm totally a Canon Cinema EOS guy, just for ease of use and the MXF file wrapper and the ability to edit on so many different platforms flawlessly, easily. Color grading is a cinch. It's just, I just really like the entire workflow. And it also should be noted that these particular cameras are really well responsive in the world of green and blue screen compositing and CGI. Yes, they are. In fact, some cinematographers and DPs that I've talked to have told me that they actually prefer working with the Canon C300 and 500, and in a lot of cases the D1C, over working with, well, even an RE Alexis. All right, good old Alexa. So, it always depends. It depends on what kind of workflow. It depends on what kind of gear you got for editing, what platforms you're using, all that kind of stuff, sure. But with the MXF file wrapper, you can edit on pretty much the broadest and most mainstream variety of editing software out there, DaVinci, Final Cut Pro, Adobe Premiere, all of these mainstream platforms that pretty much most people and most studios that I know of are working in these. So there you go, Now, you may not have the $38,000 for the DaVinci hardware set that goes with the editing software, but that's fine. You don't need it. They're nice toys. But I think the biggest thing that I like about the Canon Cinema line is not only their price point, but just ease of use. And the more DPs and stuff that I've worked with, the more I'm finding that that's their choice too. You got somebody working on a Sony F55, it's a little more involved. There's a bit more to it then, isn't there? In addition to all of these wonderful items that I've been talking about tonight, we're also talking about some of the lenses, okay? And Canon came out not too long after their EOS lines. They actually came out with their own lenses specific to their cinema cameras. And they already have, I think 200 plus different lenses for all of their digital SLRs already out there. So they wanted to make the EOS line pretty seamless for someone who's already been shooting stills for a good number of years and has a good number of EF lenses to have a good set of lenses right out of the gate when they start off with any of their cinema cameras. And I think that was a pretty smart move, actually, when you think about it. Just in terms of what you can get for your money, the fact that the packages are all encompassing and we've got PL mounts, we can work with Zeiss, and we can, that's really, I think, one of the biggest things that makes me enjoy Canon is the fact that they've opened everything up to be the most compatible with what they could. And they've completely, totally, and utterly accomplished that. I think that's safe to say. So as I was saying, any of the lenses will work with them. So if you have any camera or Canon EF lenses or any other lenses with EF mounts, you can certainly go ahead and use those on these cameras, and you'll be rocking in no time. You'll be rocking. So let's look at what Canon has for their cinema package, shall we? What the heck is it here? They have the 24mm prime, okay? They have the, what is it now? Is that a 50? Yeah, it's a 50. That's right, laddie. It's a 50. And I believe they've got an 85. Yes. And so, what do you figure that gets us here? Well, that gets you a nice package. A 24, a 50, and an 85. That's a pretty well-rounded beginning kit for cinema lenses. There are, Cook lenses. They've got a 6-pack out that are, well, what would I say? They're pretty much, there's not too much that you're going to ever shoot that, one of those 6-piece lens kits from Cook couldn't cover. But then what else are we talking about, right? Well, we're talking about overall quality, aren't we? Now, I've gone, and you can go on YouTube yourself and look this stuff up. I've gone and I've done comparisons because I was really interested in the Canon Cinema line of lenses, starting with the big God lens that I saw, which is, of course, the Canon CNE 30mm to 300mm T2.95 L lens, EF mount, cinema zoom lens. Yes, it is $43,000 still, but you got to understand this sucker's like pretty much 2 feet long. Its diameter is like almost 11 inches at its biggest point, I think. Absolutely amazing lens, absolutely incredible footage. You can actually see there's been a couple of independent films shot on it in 2012 that used the big 30 to 300 as well as the 14.5 to 60 T2.6 cinema zoom. That's only $41,000. Hey, there's a deal. Canon's also introduced since then some little bit smaller but still with a good range lenses. For example, the CNE 30mm to 105mm 2.8 L lens with EF mount in $22,000. Also the 15.5mm out to 47mm 2.8 L. Okay. $22,000. But here's where Canon starts to get exciting for all of us independents out here. If you're looking at yourself and saying, hey, I think I want to spend $16,000 on that C300 or C500, but what have I got for lenses? Well, I've got a sweet 5-pack. Yes, I do. I've got a 14mm. I've got a 24mm. I have a 50mm. I have an 85mm, and I have a smoking nice 135mm CNE cinema lens package in front of me for $21,000. Now, you might be sitting there going, dude, I don't have $21,000. Well, let me tell you what you get for that. Full-frame sensor coverage. Optics designed specifically for 4K capture. Consistent exterior components inside and out. 11 blade apertures. Stepless 300-degree focus rings. Dual slide glow-in-the-dark markings. Low light. Yes, these cameras are very low light friendly. Minimized focus breathing, designed to avoid thermal expansion and dust and water resistant build. Okay? I don't know how many of you have worked with Zeiss lenses, but those things get dirt in them like there's no tomorrow. These things are built like tanks, as most of their cameras are too. Now, when you compare, say, this 5 cinema lens promotion kit for $21,000, and for that same money, essentially, that same money, you can have yourself what? What can you have, Chris? Well, you can have a Zeiss 70 to 200mm T2.9. Yeah, there you go. So you can go the Canon EOS, get 5 primes with a great range from 14 to 135mm, or you can go with one Zeiss 70 to 200. Okay, well, there you go. I mean, that's a good example that, you can get one Zeiss prime for the same price as I can get 5 cinema lenses. But then I thought, well, wait a minute. What about quality? Gang, isn't that kind of important, especially when shooting 4K? Well, it is. It's very important. So what did your little old Chris do? He went to faithful YouTube. And did you know that you can look at direct comparisons on a number of different cameras, direct comparisons of the Canon Cinema Prime EOS lenses versus their equivalents in both Cooke and in Zeiss. And here's the interesting thing that I noticed. And, if any of you have got, the clue in about why this is, I'd like to know. But each one of these primes from 14 to 135 mil that Canon puts out performed better than their Zeiss or Cooke equivalent. Now, that might be because these lenses have been specifically designed to work with digital formats, whereas the good old Zeiss had been around since I was, well, not even alive. So perhaps there's something to do with the lens schematic or the way that they craft them now that makes them perform so much better than the industry standard, which, as we all know, is performed awesome. But it is interesting, and you can see, like I say, check out those reviews on YouTube, Lens for Lens. You can find them, and I'll even put some links up on the website, thefilm101.webs.com, and you can check them out for yourself, side by side. I mean, they do perfectly scientific, examination of both lenses in each of these, and they just look so much better. Even massively magnified, they'll take you right down to the pixel and show you the quality difference, and there is, and these Cinema EOS primes perform, in my opinion, to my eye, better than the industry standard equivalents of being Zeiss and Cooke and Ingenue. So that's pretty huge, and when you can get 5 of them for the price of one, even though it is still $21,000, it's a heck of a good deal. So I hope that, I've at least clarified, at least to the minimum extreme, how this whole thing is looking in terms of the overall end product, really. If you have a chance, you can check out on YouTube some completed films using the Canon Cinema EOS line, and I strongly suggest you do, because if you're not familiar with it, this is pretty huge to independent filmmakers that actually go and raise independent budgets and actually take people's money and try to make it into something. I think for the overall cost versus the actual output at the end of the day, I think your investors are going to be a whole lot happier with you if you do that. Yeah. And, as far as workflows go, integrate seamlessly to most workflows. And, a couple of terabyte storage drives and, get yourself a Adobe Premiere or Final Cut Pro, and I mean, you're golden, And like I say, the color grading is top notch. So that's my breakdown of cinematography and the best entry level cameras would be that whole dealio there. Well, it is getting to be that time. We have successfully completed the second episode of Film 101 on HTLA. Once again, invite you to check out everything at HTLA. HTLA973.com is the website address for now. We got a new website coming out. You're going to love it. It's all Java and Flash, and it's going to be presented in a way that I haven't seen any other website presented before, so that's pretty sexy. But for now, you can check out all our broadcasts at HTLA973.com. Just hit the old broadcast page there, and yeah, it's all there in black and white and color and, yeah, all that good stuff. So until next time, guys, I am out of here, and we'll see you all next week. Happy New Year.